Hello, welcome to Author Talks with Richard Lowe. I'm here with Brenda Haire. She says she's a crybaby. She says that means if you spend enough time around her, you will probably see her cry. Seeing others cry makes her cry. Tears of joy or sadness, they just flow the same. She's a romantic sap, and she loves love. Welcome to the show, Brenda.
It's funny that would be what you start with. My pastor sent me a picture from Sunday's service, and I was standing in the back of the room. It was we had a big event that day, and it was kind of standing room only. So some of the members got up and stood in the back, and he asked if anybody wanted to be baptized. We were doing a spontaneous baptism that day, and about 5 people raised their hands. And I was standing in the back, and I started crying. And the photographer, our staff photographer, caught me crying in the background. So my pastor sent me the picture. I said, "Well, what can I say? I'm a tender heart."
Well, that's a great introduction, Brenda. So, how are you today?
I am great. Having a great day.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you for coming to our little interview show. I think we've done about 15 of these now. So
Nice.
it's going pretty well. We just interviewed Mercedes Lackey, a pretty famous author.
Oh, neat.
We've got some other famous ones lined up, and then we've got you. So,
Maybe I'll be famous someday. Who knows?
You're an author. You're halfway there.
I'm halfway there.
Yep. So, why did you become an author?
Well, in 2003, I actually felt like God was calling me to become an author. It took me 15 years to get there. I did publish an anthology in 2012, but unfortunately, I wasn't in control of the editing for that, and it turned out pretty poorly. So I never, it's like, shh, don't tell anyone. But I was in complete control of this project, so I'm very excited about it, and it's all God. He brought me here, so I'm just being obedient. It took me a little while to get here, but here I am.
And what triggered that decision?
Well, originally, I ran into an old colleague, and I was kind of searching for my purpose and looking, what should I do with my life and that kind of thing. And she said that she had just published a book, and she was somebody I held in high esteem. And so she said she had just published a book and she was quitting her job. And I was like, what? And I had never known an author personally. And so it kind of triggered something in me. And she had a workshop. So I went and took her workshop. And then it kind of snowballed from there. But this particular project, my current book, Save the Buttertubs, came from my former book put together with my grandmother's story. My grandmother knew that I was a writer, and she had asked me to write about all the good in her life. And so I kind of married the two projects because she didn't give me enough to work with.
Well, okay, that sounds interesting. And how did it go? You've written some books. How did it go from there? What books have you written?
So this is my current book. It releases October 20th of 2018. And it's currently for pre-sale now, for pre-order now. So it's exciting. The other is a Texas local kind of book, and like I said, the editing was poor, so we're just going to keep that hush-hush for now.
Well, okay, and what is that book about? Save the Buttertubs.
My current book? Yes, it is about discovering your worth. So it's my journey of discovering my worth, partnered together with my grandmother, who discovered her worth and recognized her gifts and talents and used those to serve others. And so it's me kind of coming of age at 45, I guess you could say. Yeah, so I'm helping others discover that they have what they are searching for.
That sounds extremely interesting. I like the cover.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's very unique.
Thank you. I hope it catches a lot of attention.
You're going to sell millions of copies.
That's what I'm hoping for. I'm going to accept that promise there.
All right. So what motivated you to write that book?
Well, I really felt like your pain can be your platform. And this was a pain point for me for many years. I've probably had more jobs than I can count for sure, and more jobs than I can count with hands for sure. So I've always been, I'm a workaholic. I like to work, but, and I like to learn, but I haven't until now found what I really want to do. So it was a constant searching for this grand purpose or this epic, title or whatever, and coming up short time after time after time. And along the way, there was little, snippets of the different jobs that I loved, different aspects of the positions and things like that I did love. So now I'm able to kind of make my own perfect position here as an author, speaker, coach.
Interesting. So you're going to turn your book more into using speaking also and coaching.
Well, correct. I'm currently in the course. I'm on chapter 5 as of tomorrow. I have a group that meets in my home that they're going through it, kind of testing the waters. So I'm currently writing the course now, and it'll be a 15-week course.
Interesting. Now, if I went into your course, what would I get from it?
Well, I hope that you would discover that you actually have more than you think you do, and that leaving your legacy, that you're leaving a legacy whether you realize it or not. A lot of people think leaving a legacy, you have to have this, like I said before, this grand title or, tons of money or a big estate to leave behind. And that's not it at all. It's what happens in the daily things. And I just hope to show people that in the daily things, in the daily tasks and things we take for granted so often, that's what leaves a legacy, how we treat people daily.
Interesting. I like it already.
Thank you. Well, it's interesting that the title of the book, Save the Butter Tubs, the subtitle is Discover Your Worth in a Disposable World. But the title came to me first. My grandmother saved butter tubs. She had them on the counter all the time. She would send us with leftovers, put the groceries away, that kind of thing. But when she asked me to write about her life, I was there one day wondering, okay, well, what are we going to call this, And at that time, I had no idea about partnering the two books together. And I looked across at her kitchen, and there was a stack of butter tubs, and I said, that's it, Save the Butter Tubs. And so it wasn't until last year, about this time last year, I was at a conference, and I was in the stages of trying to put the two books together, that God really revealed to me that I'm the butter tub that she saved. And so it just became a metaphor. And it was really cool that the title came before the metaphor. So, yeah, it's been a cool journey.
Interesting. All right. So it sounds like your book's a little bit biographical also.
Yes. A little biographical, a little bit of a memoir, a little self-help, a little history in there. We got to try to throw in some historical facts. My grandmother actually attended school at Mission Espada in San Antonio, which is one of the 5 historical Hispanic missions in San Antonio. And it's kind of like the Alamo. So it's one of the World Heritage Sites. It's really a big deal. So we tried to include some of the history. There's some photographs in there of students back in the 1930s. So a little bit of history, Texas history as well.
Well, okay. And what you wrote this book, what's your favorite memory about writing it?
Oh, gosh. My favorite memory about writing the book itself. Well, discovering the title metaphor was definitely huge. I wasn't writing at the time of that, but that was definitely a huge moment for me. Also, in the beginning of the book, I tried to not be very spiritual. I was trying to keep God separate. My grandmother was very faithful, but she wasn't very boisterous about her faith. So I was trying to keep it separate, and I was struggling. I was kind of getting writer's block, and I was like, where is this ending up? And I had an outline for the book, but it wasn't flowing. And I stopped and prayed and said, okay, God, this is your book. I don't know what I'm doing here. It's yours. Do what you want. And I said, I'm trying to leave you out, but obviously I can't. And he said, you're right. You can't. I've always been part of the story. How can you leave me out of the story? And once that happened, I went from 9 chapters to 15 overnight, and went from 26,000 words to 60,000 words, and with a 2-week period. So that was a pretty cool experience.
That's an impressive rate of writing.
Yeah, it was very impressive. I was blown away myself. Yeah.
Of course, that was a first draft.
Oh, yeah. It's actually stayed around 60,000 words, believe it or not. It seemed like whatever we took out we always put something back in. So it's right there around 60,000 words still, 238 pages.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. One of the things I teach in some of the courses, I teach some training courses on how to write, is writers need to write, and they need to write often and fast.
Yes.
Because you can't make a living writing one novel a year or one novel every 5 years or something.
Yes. Yeah, it's funny. My husband, I woke up Saturday morning at 4 o'clock, and I couldn't sleep, and I was already thinking about my next book, and so I just got up and outlined the entire next book. And then my husband said, "Why did you get up so early?" And I told him, and he said, "Whoa, well, wait, let's get through the first book." And I said, "We're through the first book. It's here. Like, it's time to move on to the next one." And of course, it's, we're going to give this one a lot of love. We're going to do the course and do lots of speaking engagements. I've got a book tour planned. So a lot's going to happen with it, but it's time to be working behind the scenes on the next one for sure.
Of course, of course. So you had choices to write lots of different books, I'm sure. There's lots of ideas that come to you. Why did you choose that one as opposed to anything else?
Well, my grandmother, when she asked me, she was in her late 80s, and I felt like time was running out. I needed to focus on her projects, in particular. And then marrying the two projects together, it just seemed to fit. There's several other books that, I had manuscripts written and ready, but this one was a timing issue for her. Unfortunately, she did pass in 2017, so she didn't get to hold a completed copy in her hand, but she did get to hold, some early writings. So.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So what kind of tips would you have for other writers to help them out when they're writing their books?
Ooh. Well, I have some good cover tips. I have some really good cover tips for people. I'm actually considering becoming a cover coach because I see so many poorly drafted covers out there that, and then I talk to people and they're like, "I have 6 books on Amazon and I'm not selling any of them." And I go look at their covers and I'm just like, well, I can't read it from the thumbnail to even read the title. The picture's unclear from the thumbnail. Why would I even click on it? Like, you have an inch to get my attention, 1 inch. And I think that that's a huge thing. Like, you work so hard to get the pages filled. Now put a pretty bow on it and draw somebody's attention. Most writers want to be read. There are people who write just for the sake of writing, but most writers want to be read. So you have to draw people's attention, and most of it's going to be on Amazon in an inch square. So you have to be intentional about your cover and even in marketing for it. So as you can tell, I'm wearing yellow earrings and a yellow shirt, and my book is yellow. So everything in my life right now is yellow, yellow, yellow. Just branding that and getting it over and over in people's minds. So it's not just the writing that writers need to think about. Even if they're traditionally published, self-published, it doesn't matter. You have to market your book. So that would be a huge writing tip for people, to think it through. Also think through how you're writing the book. If it's, if you want to design it for a coaching course or, speaking engagements, think that through too. Maybe including back ads in your book and things like that. I don't think, for the most part, writers think of only writing. And I think that they need to think about the marketing aspect as well. So writing tips alone, let's see. Don't edit when you write. As hard as that is, speak to text works really well for some people. That helped me a lot. That really helped me in those days when I was moving from the 26,000 to the 60,000 words to do speak to text, because I talk really fast. And the hard part about that is you have to make sure that you speak clearly, because there was times that I couldn't even read my own text back, which was funny. The tip to fix that is to read it really fast, and then it's kind of like that game, that scrambled word game. You can figure it out. But yeah, so that's a great tip for people, is to do talk to text. Sometimes it's just our ideas flow better when we're talking. We get hung up from trying to get it to here. So that would be one of my good tips. Another good tip is to sometimes you have to take a step back and actually write with your hand versus on a keyboard. There's something about that too that generates, helps with writer's block, I think. One thing I did for writer's block is I created a playlist. Music is really important for me. So I created a playlist that kind of had go-to songs. Most of them talked about story or, what you want for your life, that kind of motivational stuff. And I would, if I ever got feeling stuck, I would put on my playlist and kind of sing through it and then go back to writing. So there's several tips for you. How's that?
Well, that's perfect. And they match some of mine. I use speech to text also.
Yeah.
So I typically write about 10,000 words a day.
Oh, wow.
Which keeps me, making money because most of my writing is ghostwriting.
Yeah.
And as far as writer's block, I put on a white noise machine, so I don't hear it. It's just a fan, but it doesn't produce any air, and it gets rid of all the background noise because I like quiet.
Yeah.
But but I like speech to text, but it does take some getting used to, and you have to learn to enunciate.
Yes. Yeah, you do. Yeah, it makes you realize as a speaker that those tools are going to come in handy as well. So.
Yes,
absolutely.
I learned today the difference between mentoring and mentoring. Like, okay, why do you keep misspelling that word? It wasn't.
Tell a funny story on myself. As a writer, you should be able to spell, right? I actually failed third grade spelling. It was a rough year. My parents got divorced in third grade. I'm going to blame it on that. I'm going to claim that, excuse once in my life. Then I failed typing in high school because I actually had the chicken pox and was out of school for a week, and she wouldn't let me make up my work. So I failed spelling and typing. So two, tattling on myself, but the third one, I could not spell the word fulfilled for the longest time because I pronounce it forfilled. Mm-hmm. So I would always type F-O-R and it wouldn't come up. And I was like, why isn't it coming up? And I couldn't look it up in the dictionary because it's not spelled with an F-O. And finally I figured out how to spell it correctly, and I've never had the problem since. But when you can't pronounce words properly, or your slang or your accent gets in the way, it makes it quite humorous as a writer.
Yes, I guess you'd call it the semi-autocorrect part of text-to-speech can be very amusing.
Yes.
That's not what I mean, especially when you have a song playing in the background and it picks up parts of the song and you're writing. It's like,
Yes.
Okay. So you talked a little bit about promotion and marketing. What would you recommend for people to promote and market both themselves and their books?
Creating a launch team. I think creating a launch team and getting people behind you is important, because if you try to do it on your own, it's a lot to conquer. I started my launch team off as a prayer team. So I started early in the process and started asking, people that I knew were prayer warriors to start praying for me, and kind of sharing the behind the scenes process with them, getting them to understand like the journey of this. And of course it was getting them early on to feel like ownership of the book and feel like they're part of it. And then a couple months ago, I turned it into an official launch team. And, I told them that, okay, now we're officially a launch team. If you don't want to be part of it anymore because there's things I need you to be doing as a launch member, then you can jump ship and I won't hate you. None of them did. And in fact, my launch team is over 700 people strong right now. So I'm very excited about, I'm launching in 3 weeks. So I'm very excited to have a strong launch team behind me for a first-time author. It's exciting. So I would say build a launch team.
And what does the launch team do for you?
Well, they are promoting it all over social media. So right now, if you go to the hashtag worth saving, you'll find all kinds of different people posting and sharing my content, which is awesome. And I love it when there's strangers sharing it. I'm like, yes, I'm reaching people I didn't know. That's the point, right? To reach people we don't know. So it's exciting to see that they're sharing my content. They agree to purchase a copy of the book by being part of the launch team, share reviews, come to the launch party, all those kind of things. So they've been great. I have a really great support. Engagement has been great. It's been exciting.
Yeah, I'd be interested in finding out more. How do you build a launch team of 700 people?
You do, okay, so I do themes. This is probably something that I'll end up teaching eventually as well, but I do themes. So the first month, every day of the week was a different theme, and Tuesdays was add to Tuesday. So they were supposed to add 2 people every Tuesday. So of course people will add more, some people won't participate at all. And so they just started kind of growing there. And then as the next month switched and we started doing different things, I would say things like, tag people who bring back childhood memories, or your favorite person to laugh with, or whatever. And so they would start adding people that way. Yeah, and so it just grew and grew and grew. It's exciting.
Interesting. All right. Now, what about promoting yourself in addition to your book? Have you found that to be useful?
Yes, absolutely. I think branding is key, letting people see your face, and being professional when they see your face. And when I say that, I don't mean you have to be like completely polished and, be something that you're not. My very first YouTube video ever, if you go to my YouTube channel, I'm actually wearing my pajamas. And I talk about, this is me. I'm a writer. I work from home. This is what I wear every day. And so this is it. Like, I'm not going to go put lipstick on for a 5-minute thing. This is me. And actually, I think I may have put lipstick on, but I still was in my jammies. And I think that that's important. People need to see your face. Think about yourself as a reader. Like, I don't know. For me, I read mainly nonfiction. So for me, I am really buying the writer as well as the book. And I guess it's the same way for most fiction writers. I don't know. I don't read a lot. I probably read a handful of fiction books by choice my whole life. And so it's probably the same. I mean, people buy into the kind of that cultish idea behind a series or things like that. I'm guessing. I don't know. Am I right, Richard, maybe?
You are correct.
Okay. So they're buying into the author as well as the book and as well as the series. And so branding yourself and letting people get to know you, and, even they think they're your friends. And, it's really funny. I told my husband I had some fans in another state, and he's like, you have fans? And I was like, well, they weren't my friends prior to this book, so what else should I call them? Like, I don't know them. And it's just kind of funny to say, all of a sudden now I have fans. But apparently I have some, so it's kind of neat. But you have to build that. You have to work for that. And I think it comes through I can say this word, being authentic and letting them see a little bit behind the scenes, letting them see that you're real, something that they can relate to. I think it really comes down to being yourself. People, they want to know what goes on in they want to know who created this crazy story or who lived it or whatever. So I think you got to be yourself.
That's fascinating. And how do you remain productive day after day after day?
Well, that's interesting. So when I was still writing, in the writing process, I was part of a Zoom group with some other authors, and every 2 weeks we would meet and hold each other accountable for kind of our word count and chapter titles and things like that. Like, where are you in the process? So that helped, having that accountability of every 2 weeks. Then once the manuscript was done and it was ready to go to the editor, I thought, phew, I'm done. This is great. And it was like, oh no, that's just when the party gets started. So then it was, cover choices and back cover copy, ad design. I mean, it was one thing after another. So my to-do list is really, really long. Let's see, I have 38 things on my to-do list right now leading up to launch week. That doesn't include everything I need to do. But it's just been, since the manuscript's been finished, I'll never forget when I finished and I walked out and told my husband, I'm done. It's finally done. I was so excited. And then that night I laid in bed and went, oh, I have to do this and this and this and this and this tomorrow. And so that's how it's been. I mean, the productive side of it has just come because the next thing has to be done. So like even tonight when I get off with you, my hardcover copy is being delivered. So I'll have to proofread my hardcover copy, make sure it's correct, and then push the button, for it to go live and order my hardcovers. So it's always the next thing. So this week I'm working on press releases for my launch parties. I'm having 2 launch parties, press releases, book trailer, one thing after another. So it's kind of, once you have your marketing plan laid out, I guess it's a never ending. You always wake up to a task. So
it's a fascinating process, isn't it?
It is. And I love every second of it. This is what I was made to do.
Yes, I have 63 books on Amazon, and it's become overwhelming promoting them.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. But I wrote them all really fast, and I think they're all pretty good. But anyway, so what is your favorite thing about being an author besides being in PJs on video?
Well, that's actually not my favorite thing. I like being social and going and having lunches and doing stuff like that. So I like working outside the home, but I don't. So I have to make an effort and be intentional about getting outside of the house. So I'd say my favorite thing is about being an author. What is my favorite thing? Well, I think just the whole process. It's fascinating to me. You know, it's fascinating that 3 weeks ago, I was a nobody, and now all of a sudden people are fanning me. It's crazy. And to see people's reaction, like people are coming out of the woodworks like, oh, you're an author, so I have a book I want, and now that all of a sudden I'm the go-to, like they want to talk to me about their own projects and that kind of thing. And it's just fascinating that it's like, I've been writing books for 15 years and you never came to me for advice. And now all of a sudden that my baby was born, you know, the credibility, I guess, that comes with this, it's just kind of funny. But I guess that's the thing I enjoy the most, is just the process of it. And I love when, and my publisher told me this would happen, that I would get a letter from somebody that says, your book has changed my life. And, you know, the book isn't released yet. So for that to happen already has been pretty incredible. My editor and my proofreader both have shared incredible stories with me. In my book, I share my grandmother's passing and the heartbreak that was. And my editor, as she was editing my manuscript, out of all the manuscripts she could be editing, her grandmother passed away. And so for her to be able to walk through that while she's editing my book, it was just incredible. And, you know, her response back, and even last night I did send out first pages through chapter 1 to some of my launch team members. And somebody came back and said, I love your chapter titles. They're amazing. So just those kind of things. It's like, my chapter title. Okay, great. So getting that feedback is wonderful. I haven't gotten any haters yet. I'm sure they'll come, I'm sure.
It's inevitable.
Yeah, it's inevitable, but that's fine too. So at least I know it's reaching people. They have to see it to hate it. So.
All right. Well, we're coming up on the end here. Any closing remarks?
Well, I just thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited. If they can't tell by my excitement, I'm excited about this process and excited about being an author. And I would tell people who are on the fence or who are struggling to become an author to press on. 15 years of saying I'm a writer, I can now actually say I'm an author, and it feels incredible. Had I given up, you know, I'd still be dreaming. And now instead I'm holding my dream in my hand. You know, I'll be doing speaking engagements. The book tour starts on the 14th. So it's an exciting journey. Don't give up.
Well, very good. Well, thank you. This has been Author Talks with Richard Lowe, and I'm here with Brenda and her incredible book. And thank you for appearing.
Thank you so much.
And remember, readers out there or viewers out there, you can hit the subscribe button and you can get notifications of these videos. And thank you for watching. All right. That's a wrap.